God is at work in the world, and we are invited, dare I say, we're commanded to join God in God's good work. And there are habits, there are disciplines that we can practice together that enable us to get in on what God is doing. And this week we're looking at the discipline of proclaiming the gospel. So I was in the office here at the church this week, and the front desk received a phone call from Ruby Memorial, which is the hospital right over there. And this happens sometimes several times a week, Pastor Matt. Someone over at the hospital is in the bed, and they Google churches, and Suncrest United Methodist pops up. And so someone did that, and they gave us a call, and I was able to speak to a young lady, and she said, somebody tells me here at the hospital that churches will help people who need stuff. And I said, well, we try to do that. How can I help you? So she's a 19-year-old who has a 3-week-old baby, and just a few days ago over in Parkersburg, where she lives, her baby has stopped breathing, and they've gone to the hospital in Parkersburg, and she and her baby have been transferred to Ruby. And, listen to this, the baby's dad and the mother's dad started walking from Parkersburg to get to the hospital to see the baby and mom. So, I talked to some folks, talked to Matt, talked to some other folks trying to figure out what we can do to be of help. And then I go over to the hospital later in the afternoon, and I go up to the floor, I walk in the room, and there she is, sitting in one of those reclining sort of chairs. Red hair, wild red hair, baby on her lap, sleeping like babies sleep, perfectly shaped head. Now let me ask you a question. What did she need? Well, she told me she needed a salad. Got that for her. She needed something done with the baby's dad and her dad, either getting them to Ruby or getting them back to Parkersburg, and she needed somebody to listen to her. The scripture says that she needed an experience of the power of God through the proclamation of the gospel of Jesus. Friends, as the church, we proclaim the gospel, Jesus Christ and who he is, and Jesus and what he did, Jesus crucified. As a community of faith, we share that message with one another and with the world. I want you to notice here just for a moment how strange that message is. Jesus crucified. We're kind of used to the word crucified here in church, so what if I said to you, our message is Jesus executed? Doesn't that sound strange? When you and I proclaim the gospel of who Jesus is and what Jesus did, Jesus crucified, we are sharing with one another and with anyone that there is a God who is so deeply passionate about our lives that he has entered into our world and experienced the tragedy of our suffering and shame and sin, and who entering into our world has gained victory over those tragedies and offers us a power that comes from God that gives us hope that can't be taken away, and a power that helps us to endure, a knowledge about ourselves that keeps telling ourselves we are loved and there's nothing we can do about it. When we share the gospel of Jesus Christ, of who Jesus is and what he's done, we're sharing that message of Christ's crucified to the depths of our very being. We share that message. Who do we share it with? We share it with one another because we need to hear it over and over again. We share it with one another, and we share it with anyone. We share it with anyone who might need to hear it. We share Jesus and who he is and what he's done. How do we share it? Well, the Apostle Paul says we don't have to share it very well. He said, I was a mess. I was nervous. The words weren't coming. I wasn't eloquent. I didn't sound wise. But he says this, the message came through anyway. Hey, this is important for us to know. We don't have to do it very well. We just need to do it. And listen to this. The message itself has enough power that our feeble attempts to falteringly share our experience of Jesus is good enough for God to do a good work in someone's life. This week, I heard a poem about pinholes. Can you see the screen? Can you see that there's a little pinhole in that sheet of paper, but that through that little pinhole there's an amazing amount of light coming in? I heard that poem, and it took me back to my childhood. I don't remember where I was. I was at a relative's house. And I was a kid, and I was rummaging around in their house trying to find something interesting. And I found some window blinds. Remember the old-fashioned window blinds? You could pull it down, give it a little jerk, and then it would go zoom right back up. Well, I pulled one of those down. It was an old window blind, and there was a tiny pinhole in it. And through that pinhole, there came enough light to brighten the whole room. And as I was reading this scripture this week, I thought, my God, if I could just be a pinhole. I get to sit with folks in some very dark, dark places. And if I could just be a tiny pinhole, if my tiny life, could just allow a little bit of the light of the gospel about Jesus to shine through, that would be enough. Can I share with you that Jesus is the best thing that has ever happened in my life? We proclaim that. We proclaim the good news of who Jesus is and what Jesus has done. Now, imagine with me, you walk up to that floor in the hospital. There is the door open before you. You walk in, and there she sits in that chair, red hair everywhere, baby on her knee, and you say to her, well, my experience with Jesus is. And enough light shines through you that a scared, lonely, poor young woman hears that there's a God who desperately loves her and will not let her go. We proclaim that. We proclaim the gospel.